whatever you call the man or men who raised you, this happens to be the weekend to celebrate them. And there are many types of fathers. And fatherhood, as we know, is not without its challenges. I want to start out with something positive. So tell me, and I'll start with you, Louis, tell me, what is the best thing about fatherhood?
I think that you get the opportunity to be better to your children than you've probably experienced yourself. One of the big joys that I have as being a father is that I get to see a replication of myself in my children. And I also get to guide them in a way as to where I've been down the corridors of time and down the hallway of life a little further than they have. It's not that they always listen to me, but it does feel good to be able to just give them some transferable principles that I may or may not have picked up by my father.
I love that. Dr. Tolson, well, first of all, one of your kids has already written a book, and they're not even adults yet. But I want you to tell us the most challenging thing about being a father.
Okay. The best thing I was going to say is entertainment, because, kids can be funny. The most challenging thing, I think, is that point of departure. And when you realize that you can't mold them into your image, and you have to appreciate them for the amazing person that they are becoming, which is completely distinct from who you are. So that can be a challenge at first. But once you recognize that the individual that they are becoming can be greater than you, it becomes one of those joys.
Yeah, I can see that being a challenge and a joy, actually. Brian, you are instrumental in helping fathers adopt children, or people in the LGBTQ community adopt children. Tell us about that. And is it more, because adoption is just challenging anyway. Our executive producer adopted a child. I have many friends who are adopted parents. So how is it doing it specifically for the LGBTQ community?
Sure. So first, thanks. It's great to be here. I'll tell you that there are actually several different paths to fatherhood that most of us can choose to take. So my husband and I created our family through a combination of adoption and surrogacy. And so when we did this, it was 12, 13 years ago. There were no resources whatsoever out there to help out. And we had to figure it all out on our own. And top of that, we thought we were going to adopt a baby boy, but it didn't end up happening 3 months into it. So then we signed up to become dad through surrogacy. I'm HIV positive, so we had to figure out how we can make that all work out. I have been for over 30 years. So no one knows more than me just how complicated our paths to fatherhood are for gay men, which is why we launched Gays with Kids. And a few months ago, we actually launched something called GWK Academy.
There are a lot of challenges with fatherhood, but one thing, you and I were Mrs. Obama's Culture of Democracy panel together this past weekend, and I hogged all your time. I could not stop talking to you. I was talking to you all day, and because your story was so compelling, and you were talking to me about being a returning citizen after serving 14 years in prison, and what fathers go through in prison. There are over 800,000 parents in federal state prison. 92% are fathers. So talk to us about the challenges that happen both inside prison and also what happens when you get out when it comes to fatherhood.
Yeah, without question. So look, the United States population for African Americans is approximately 12.5%, but we make up approximately 40% of the United States incarceration population, which means both incarcerated and people who are under supervision in the community. Of that number, there are approximately 51% who happen to be parents. And of that number, when you reduce it down, approximately 35% or so happen to be African American fathers. And I fell into that statistics. When I was approximately 5 years old, both of my parents were incarcerated, and I was raised by my maternal grandmother. And then when I hit the age of approximately 23 or so, there I am perpetuating that transgenerational pathology of incarceration, so to speak, where I was incarcerated myself, leaving my children to be raised by their mothers. And I can tell you, when I was in, and I'm just getting a little emotional just thinking about it. When I was in, being able to try to parent your children in the course of a 5 to 6 hour visit in 15-minute telephone call increments where you only get 300 minutes a month, when you're trying to stay as engaged as you can through letters, through emails, et cetera, it is extremely, I don't think that there's a word in the Webster's dictionary to appropriately give grammatical profundity to the level of emotional weight that comes with that. And so, I can tell you it was challenging there. Even when I came home from incarceration, when I went in, my kids were approximately 5 years old. When I come home, they're approximately 18. And so they are their own person. They're growing into their own person. And that was a challenge in and of itself. But I can tell you, through love, through grace, through prayer, through determination, through consistency, we are far much better now than what we were before. And incarceration is something that really tears at the fabric of who we are.
Yeah, and I think it's so important what you said, because the humanity that our men get robbed of being overly criminalized and shuffled into the prison system. Singles, I would make it rain. All right, Louis Reed, Dr. Tolson, and Brian Rosenberg are back with me. And Dr. Tolson, I want to start with you because Louis just gave that very compelling testimony about what he went through. I know you're very familiar with that. Take a listen. My friend Tremaine Lee has an amazing special on fatherhood that's available streaming on our network now. Take a listen to the soundbite from Tracy Martin, who is, of course, Trayvon Martin's father, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
The hardest thing for us as black men to do is to get up and hit that mental reset button every morning, because there's so much pressure. We're afraid to show people our vulnerability, right? And so when we need to understand that it's okay to lean on somebody and say, hey, man, I just need to talk to you.
Anytime a display is shown, you want to show some positive to that kid in the structure of a home. You don't want a kid to see mama, daddy arguing, all that. You want them to see love all the time.
Dr. Tolson, we talked about this, but there is this pervasive myth about the absent black father when the data just does not bear that out. You just heard this brother Louis say, hey, I was behind bars trying to be the best father I could to my children from the system that imprisoned me. Talk about that, if you will.
Yeah, well, white patriarchy has defined what fatherhood is in the United States. And since the white man became the model of what a father should look like, black men became the anti-father. And then you had the Monahan reports and, all of these different, BS stats. And that's the bad stats that I talk about. But it simply isn't true. And what black men have had to do is to redefine what fatherhood looks like. Fatherhood was defined as someone who makes a whole lot more money than the mother, who works long days while the mother is taking care of the child. What about the father that makes less than the mother but spends more time with the children? What about the non-resident father that still picks up a lot of the pace and does some of the daily functions of that child that a lot of the white-collar men don't do? So black men have really had to redefine what fatherhood is and what it looks like in the society for our own validation.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. And Brian, in your line of work, how is it with the same-sex couples? Because we're disrupting a lot of the traditional roles of mothers and fathers. So how does that work when it's a same-gender loving home?
Yeah, so it's very easy. It happened. Every household is different, right? It's all based on which is how it should be everywhere. It's all based on our individual strengths and desires. So, I'm the more cuddly one with the kids in our family, but I also am working most of the day. My husband's a full-time stay-at-home dad. So it's just different. And, I can't tell you, we get people that come up to us still today, say, so, who plays mom? Who's the mom in the family? And I also do the dishes. So it's all just, it's how it should be for every family. You do what feels natural to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Louis, I just have to thank you again for sharing your story. You also mentioned that inside prison, a lot of men you've witnessed commit suicide because Father's Day, because it's such a lonely holiday. So just to show some joy on this day and what it's like being a father, I'm just curious, what is your ideal plan for Father's Day? How do you like spending time with your kids and celebrate all that you've done in their lives, despite the many challenges that you've already overcome?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm gonna get you for almost making me cry on national TV. You're mixing up my pretty points. Look, for me, Father's Day is not an annual event. Every time I connect with my children, every time I have a telephone call, every time I'm speaking with them at length, that's a moment of celebration for me, especially considering where I came from just 6+ years ago. And so when I think about what it is for me to show up in the joys of being a father, it's just those little moments. Those little moments actually fit into the larger framework of who we are as individuals and how we're trying to show up as fathers, Black fathers in particular.
I love that. Well, I want to wish all three of you a very happy Father's Day. Thank you, Louis Reed, Dr. Ivory Tolson, and Brian Rosenberg. I imagine you'll see all three of them back on this show quite a bit. And a happy Father's Day, a happy Heavenly Father's Day to my own biological father, but to my uncles, my Uncle Brady, Uncle Mark, Uncle Doug, Uncle Rolly, all the men who in my life, happy Father's Day to you. And you can catch a re-air of Tremaine Lee's Father's Day special, Can You Hear Us Now, Black Fathers? That's airing later tonight on NBC News Now. You can check your local listing.